Picture this. Two colleagues, let's call them Sarah and Mark. They sit in the exact same office, they have the exact same resources, and they just got handed the exact same high-stakes, incredibly stressful project. Fast forward 6 months, and the results are in. Mark, he's completely exhausted. His team deeply resents him, and the project barely scraped by. But Sarah delivered exceptional results. She stayed totally calm under immense pressure, and her team, they would gladly follow her anywhere.
So why does this happen? Seriously, why do some people consistently succeed in life, building rich relationships and hitting their biggest goals, while others, with the exact same intelligence and opportunities, just constantly struggle and burn out? We usually chalk it up to raw talent, or maybe just dumb luck. But enduring, sustainable success, it's rarely about either of those things. It's actually built on something much, much deeper. If you look at popular advice from the last century or so, you'll notice a massive shift. As a society, we became completely obsessed with superficial life hacks. How to dress for success, clever PR tricks, or forcing this relentless positive attitude just to fake it until you make it. That is what we call the personality ethic. But before that, for hundreds of years, the focus was entirely on the character ethic. This philosophy recognizes that true greatness actually flows from the inside out. It's about deeply ingrained principles, things like integrity, humility, courage, and patience. You can't just hack a strong foundation. You literally have to sow the seeds yourself.
Think about how this plays out in your normal daily routine. Imagine a typically frustrating morning. Traffic is a nightmare, the economy feels shaky, and you've got a client who is being entirely unreasonable. Someone with a reactive mindset lets those external forces completely dictate their reality. If the weather is bad, their mood is bad. They're constantly swept away by circumstances, just exhausting themselves by blaming everyone else. But someone who is building that deep character foundation, they adopt a proactive mindset. They look at that exact same frustrating morning, and they focus their time and energy solely on what they can actually control, their own actions and their own responses. They realize they are the creators of their life, not just passengers along for the ride. There's this incredibly profound truth about human psychology here. Between every single stimulus, that rude email, that sudden crisis, and your response to it, there is a space. And in that space lies your absolute greatest power. You have the ultimate freedom to choose how you're going to react. You aren't some machine programmed to just blindly react to your environment. You can pause, evaluate, and actually act based on your internal values. Try putting this into practice today. The very next time you face a daily frustration, maybe the kids are screaming or a meeting is running way over, just notice the trigger. Don't snap back immediately. Intentionally pause in that silent space. Subordinate that sudden, heated impulse to your deeper values. Choose to respond with patience or maybe constructive action. It's in these ordinary, everyday moments that we forge true, unshakable character. But here is the catch, and it's a big one. Realizing you're in the driver's seat of your life means absolutely nothing if you haven't actually figured out where you're driving. It is incredibly easy to just work harder and harder, sacrificing your time, your health, your relationships, all to climb the ladder of success, only to realize years later that it was leaning against the completely wrong wall the entire time. It comes down to a fundamental law of nature. Mental creation always precedes physical creation. Everything in your life is created twice. Think about it. A house is designed as a detailed blueprint in the mind before a single brick is ever laid. Your life is the exact same way. If you don't make a conscious, intentional effort to visualize who you want to be and what you want to achieve, well, you're just living by default. You're handing over the blueprint of your life to other people and to outside circumstances to draw for you. So to take back that blueprint, you need an unwavering compass. An incredibly powerful way to do this is to actually draft a personal constitution or a mission statement. Think of it as defining the end before you even begin. Sit down and clearly articulate what you want to be, the specific things you want to do, and the moral and ethical principles that are going to guide you there. Once you have this documented, it becomes this incredibly clear lens through which you can examine every major life choice and even those seemingly small everyday decisions. Of course, having a beautiful vision for your life is one thing. Actually executing it on a chaotic Tuesday morning, that's another story entirely. This is where we so often fall into the urgency trap. Our days get completely consumed by emergencies, constant interruptions, and a relentless short-term focus. We spend all our time putting out fires and reacting to pressing problems. It feels productive and important in the moment, for sure, but this constant crisis management inevitably leads to massive stress and burnout.
To escape this trap, we can look at a brilliant little tool, the time management matrix. Highly effective people realize that the secret isn't just about managing time, it's about managing where they put their focus. They intentionally shift their energy away from those urgent but totally unimportant distractions, the low-value stuff trapped in quadrants 3 and 4, and they relentlessly protect their time for quadrant 2. This is the quadrant of quality. It's where the important, non-urgent activities live, like deep planning, relationship building, and proactive maintenance. That is where true, life-changing efficiency actually happens. You can start shifting this balance right now. Identify just one important long-term project you've been putting off simply because it's not on fire yet. Then practice the art of diplomacy and firmly say no to an unimportant distraction today. Maybe it's an unnecessary meeting, a social event you really don't want to attend, or just falling down a social media rabbit hole. Use that reclaimed time to schedule deep work on your priority. It takes real courage to say no, but honestly, it's the only way to say yes to your ultimate vision. Now, once we begin to master our internal focus and our time, we inevitably have to step outward and navigate human interactions. And here is where so many of us stumble. Most of us are conditioned from childhood to operate on a scarcity paradigm. We treat life, business, and even relationships like a zero-sum game. If a colleague gets a promotion, we instinctively feel like we lost. We think there's only so much pie to go around. But highly successful people operate on an abundance paradigm. They fundamentally believe there is plenty for everyone, and they actively seek mutual benefit rather than cutthroat competition. Operating from a place of abundance isn't just about being nice or accommodating, though. It's actually a highly sophisticated character trait. It requires what psychologists might call the essence of real maturity, the precise balance between courage and consideration. You have to be incredibly brave to confidently advocate for your own needs and goals, while simultaneously possessing deep, genuine consideration for what the other person needs. So the next time you find yourself entering a negotiation, a debate with your partner, or conflict at work, try completely discarding the instinct to compete. Don't just look for a compromise where you both have to give something up and lose a little bit. Instead, use your courage and your consideration to actively seek a solution that is truly beneficial and satisfying for everyone involved. Because in interdependent realities, if it isn't a win for both of you, long-term trust erodes, and eventually you both lose. But none of this works. Finding those mutual wins is entirely impossible if we don't know how to communicate. And communication is where we make one of our most glaring, everyday errors. It's called autobiographical listening. Think about your last conversation. Were you truly listening, or were you just waiting for your turn to speak? Be honest. Most of us filter everything another person says through the lens of our own life story. We pretend to listen, but really, we're just preparing our reply based on our own experiences. Because we listen autobiographically, we usually fall into these really toxic habits. We evaluate and judge immediately. We probe with questions based purely on our own curiosity. We advise, jumping in with premature solutions before we even begin to understand the actual problem. Or we interpret, psychoanalyzing people based on our own pasts. We say things like, "Oh, I know exactly how you feel. Let me tell you what I did." These responses completely shut down communication. They alienate the very people we are desperately trying to connect with. The antidote to this is empathic listening. This is arguably the ultimate tool for relationship building. The principle is simple, but incredibly profound. Before you ever attempt to get your point across and be understood, you must first seek to deeply, genuinely understand the other person. This means putting down your own script. You listen not just to the words, but for meaning, for emotion, and for behavior. You create a safe, silent space for the other person to fully express their reality. This takes a ton of practice, but you can start today. In your very next conversation with a colleague or a loved one, intentionally suspend your urge to respond automatically. When they share a problem, bite your tongue. Seriously, do not give advice. Do not share a similar story about yourself. Just listen carefully for their meaning and their feelings. You will be absolutely astounded by how quickly and fully people open up when they feel truly, deeply understood. When you master these internal foundations, taking responsibility, living by a clear vision, managing your focus, and you combine them with external mastery, like seeking mutual benefit and deep empathic listening, something remarkable happens. You reach a state of synergy. Now, this isn't just some corporate buzzword. It's the reality that when high-trust individuals genuinely leverage their differences, they don't just compromise. They create entirely new, innovative solutions that neither could have ever designed alone. And this brings us right back to the core of everything. What we do flows from who we are. You cannot fake lasting success.
You can't rely on superficial personality tricks to navigate complex human relationships or to achieve deeply meaningful goals. Enduring greatness is and always will be built from the inside out. It rests entirely on an unshakable foundation of personal character.
We all have the power to step into that quiet space between stimulus and response, and to rewrite the blueprint of our lives. The knowledge is there, but the execution? Well, that's entirely up to you. So as you step back into the reality of your daily routine, I want to leave you with a simple yet profound challenge. Look closely at your own life. Which foundational habit are you going to choose to change today?